Good morning, class. How is everybody doing today?
Good.
Wonderful. Did everybody have a good recess? Thumbs up if it was great. Thumbs sideways if it was okay. Thumbs down if it was not okay. Wonderful. It looks like for the most part, lots of you guys had fun outside and got some energy out. Well, today we are going to do our second day of inferencing. If you remember, yesterday we learned what an inference is. So does anybody remember what is an inference? Anna Marie?
You're trying to guess what the author is telling you indirectly.
Wonderful answer. So an inference can also be known as an educated guess, reading facts and evidence to reach a logical conclusion or opinion. And when you inference, you read between the lines. So you ask yourself, what is the text trying to tell you? And some questions you can also think to yourself are, the author wants me to think, and I'm guessing this is happening because something else is happening. All right. So today we're going to dig a little bit deeper with inferencing and drawing inferences. So let's go ahead and look at our learning target. So our learning target today is I can draw inferences from the text. Go ahead and say that with me. I can draw inferences from the text. Wonderful. So sometimes authors of the stories don't tell you everything that they want you to understand. They give you clues so that you can read between the lines and figure it out. This is called drawing an inference. Thumbs up if that makes sense. Wonderful. Yesterday, we talked about different ways to make inferences, and we talked about how an inference can be kind of like an addition sentence. So you can take what you already know and add what did you learn from the reading, and and it equals what do you infer. So today we're going to add on a little bit more to that, and we are going to take evidence from the text. So what did you directly read in the story? And as well as using your schema, connections to the story, what you already know. So all of those are your observations. And if you have 1 plus 2, you'll get 3, making your inferences. What you figured out about the story once you found the evidence and your schema. Yesterday, we listened to a really fun song about inferencing, and we also learned that you don't have to inference just in text and in reading, but inferences are also in your everyday life, like this girl. So this time, we are really going to listen with attention, and we're going to listen to the words of the music. And I'm going to ask you some questions between that. All right. Here we go.
Vocabulary. When you go by your friend's house to see if she's home, and the house is all dark and you don't have your phone, she doesn't answer the knock. What could this be? She could be hiding in the dark. She could have moved to Greece, but those don't seem likely. So you take your best guess. She's probably just not home. No need to stress. When you take your best guess, you infer. Whether you observe the clues or you read them in the words.
So when you make an inference, you combined evidence from the text with your own background knowledge to draw a conclusion. What did the character infer about her friend here? Tyler?
That her friend probably wasn't home because it's dark in her house.
Wonderful. And what evidence and background knowledge did she use to make this inference? Have you ever knocked on a friend's house and nobody's been home? Yeah. So she could have used her own background knowledge to make that opinion or inference. Let's continue listening, and you can also sing along if you like.
You reach conclusions from details or evidence, clues that you see in the real world or sentences. Like Jasmine was cranky, she had bags beneath her eyes, her head was droopy, she was yawning all the time. You infer she's tired, didn't get a good night's sleep. Jasmine's not a shepherd, but you think she needs to count sheep.
Imagine Jasmine has said, I have a math test this morning. I didn't start studying for it until 10 o'clock last night. What could the character infer about why Jasmine is sleepy today? So go ahead and read the answers and hold up an A if you think she couldn't sleep because she was worried about her math test. B, she was up late studying for her math test. Or C, she was up late watching TV shows. Which one do you think it is? Good. So it looks like a lot of you guys said B. Nice job. Go ahead and pat yourself on the back. Wonderful. Good inference.
She didn't tell you she was sleepy. She didn't have to say, because the clues were like a sign that she was wearing on her face.
I read between the lines what you don't say when you tell me that you're coming my way. I read between the lines to infer the truth. I'ma take my best guess with you. I read between the lines what you don't say when you tell me that you're coming my way. I read between the lines to infer the truth. I'ma take my best guess with you.
Inferring is also called reading between the lines. Why do you think this idiom is used to describe the process of making inferences? Okay, so when you are inferring, the text does not directly say what is happening, right? Or what is going on. So that's why a lot of times when you're making an inference, you're reading between the lines because you're trying to figure out what the author wants you to know. Does that make sense? Wonderful.
It's your birthday and you are amped, but when you ask Jasmine to hang, she says she has plans. You glance in her backpack and hello, you see a flashlight and 2 bags of marshmallows.
So Jasmine said she's busy tonight, and the character sees a flashlight and marshmallows in her bag. At this point in the story, what can she infer about why Jasmine is busy?
Maybe she's going camping because she has marshmallows in her backpack, and you usually roast marshmallows when you're camping. And maybe she's going to get scared, and that's why she had her teddy bear.
Great. So I love, Tyler, how you used your schema or background knowledge to make that inference. Nice job.
A little later, you overhear your friend Samantha ask Jasmine what time, but you don't catch the answer. And then she says, I won't tell. Jasmine, have trust. And then she sees you looking over and she starts to blush. So think it through. Everything you observed, read between the lines. What can you infer?
After overhearing Samantha and Jasmine's conversation and seeing Samantha blush, what can the character now infer about what is happening tonight? Anna Marie?
she can infer that they might be having a sleepover.
Wonderful. And how may she have had to revise her earlier thinking with this new information? Tyler?
Well, they're probably not going camping if they're trying to keep it a secret, maybe? I don't know.
All right, let's take a look and see what happens.
Maybe Jasmine's throwing a surprise party for you. The conversation that you overheard was a clue. And where could it be? You infer it's at a campsite where you roast marshmallows and might need a flashlight that night. Your dad leads you where you never been. And suddenly, and yeah, it's all your friends.
I read between the lines what you don't say when you tell me that you're coming my way. I read between the lines to infer the truth. I'm gonna take my best guess with you.
Describe an inference that you made in your everyday life or in a text that you read. What was the inference? And what clues and background knowledge did you use to draw your conclusion? Does anybody have an example of an inference in their everyday life? Tyler?
One day, my mom came home from work, and she seemed like really angry and stressed out and stuff. And so I thought maybe she had a bad day at work.
Great. That's a great inference. Anybody else? All right. Let's go ahead and finish up the song.
I read between the lines what you don't say when you tell me that you're coming my way. I read between the lines to infer the truth. I'm gonna take my best guess with you.
A thumbs up if you love that song. Wonderful. I really love how that song helps us figure out what an inference is and uses everyday experiences for inferences. So today we're going to go back and we are going to read passages to make inferences, and we are going to use observations. So I have it over here too, so you can refer back to this chart. But we are going to use observations. So observations are your background knowledge and your schema. Then we are also going to ask questions about the text, and then we're going to make our inference. And also observations are looking at the story and seeing what the text states. So some of these observations, you can start out your observations by saying the story states. So go ahead and say that.
The story states.
Good. The picture shows. Go ahead and say that. The picture shows. I can see.
I can see.
Nice job. I read. And I know that. So observations, again, are using your background knowledge, your schema, and the text. Then, using that, you are going to make a question. And questions can start by how does. So go ahead and say that.
How does?
Good. If. Is. Who. When. I wonder why. Nice job. And then using the observations with the questions, you are going to make your inference. So inferences can start with, I can infer that. Go ahead and say that. I can infer that. Maybe. Good. I can conclude. Nice job. I've figured out. And this means. Nice job. So we are going to use those to help us infer what our story cards mean. So I'm going to give you a piece of paper with some story cards on them. And on the story card, you're going to read each story card and do three things. The first thing you're going to do is record your observation about the story. using your text clues and schema. The second thing you're going to do is write a question the story leaves you asking. And the third thing you're going to do is draw an inference. So I'm going to give you a piece of paper, and you're going to do the first few together. Then you're going to work with a partner and do a couple with a partner and a couple on your own. Who remembers the first thing you do when you get a piece of paper? Tyler?
Put your name on the page.
Awesome. You always want to have your name on the paper so I know who it belongs to and I know what wonderful work you did. All right, so go ahead and give me a thumbs up after you have your name on your paper. Wonderful. All right, if you look on your paper, the first story card shows this story. So this time, I'm going to read it. When I pause, you say the word so I know that you're following along. There was a colorful rainbow on the wall of the room. Good. Markers and paint lay on the floor next to the artwork. Good job. Mom's face looked very upset. My little brother Owen was nowhere in sight. Good job. I knew exactly what was going to happen. Good. So let's listen to that one more time while I just read and you listen. There was a colorful rainbow on the wall of the room. Markers and paint lay on the floor next to the artwork. Mom's face looked very upset. My little brother Owen was nowhere in sight. I knew exactly what was going to happen next. So on your paper, you'll see this little chart that has a story card for story card number 1, which is the story that we just read. And for story card number 1, you are going to list observations, questions, and inferences made on the observations and questions. If you remember, we can go back to our chart, and for observations, we look at the story and we can say things like the story states or I read. So if I look at this card, I can make observations like the story states that there was drawing on the wall. Thumbs up if you saw that in the story. Wonderful. The story states that Owen is hiding because he's nowhere to be found, right? And then I'm using my background knowledge, knowing that my nieces, who are 2 and 4, would have probably done this before. So this helps me to see that Owen is probably fairly young, right? And then I'm going to ask some questions, and some of our questions can start with how does, if, who, when, or I wonder why. My question is, what is going to happen next in the story? All right. And then based on my question and observation, I am going to make an inference. And my inference is, I can say something like, I can infer Owen is going to be in trouble because he did draw on the wall, right? And Mom is probably pretty upset because she has lots of cleaning to do. Thumbs up if that makes sense. Wonderful. All right, we are going to do the next one together. So go ahead and look at story card number 2 on your paper. Raise your hand if you would like to read this story card. All right, Anna Marie?
Yes, today is the day. As we walked into the building, I could barely contain my excitement. My dad handed me the form, and I confidently filled out each line. I studied hard for this and practiced parallel parking for an extra 30 minutes last night with my dad. Hannah, are you ready for your exam?
Nice job. So let's go ahead and let's use story card 2 and fill out the chart. So remember, observations, we're looking at what the story states, or using our background knowledge. I know that this is happening because of something that's happened in your prior life or something that you read. Can anybody give me an observation about this story? Tyler?
It said, I study hard for this and practice parallel parking. I remember when my sister was getting her license, she practiced a lot to drive. So, yeah, practice parallel parking.
We can say, I know that driving takes a lot of practice. Nice job. Go ahead and write that down or make an observation of your own and give me a thumbs up. Wonderful. All right, now we're going to look at the story again, and you can read it in your head and see if there's any questions that come to mind in this story. Tyler?
I wonder if she's gonna pass her test.
Wonderful question. So let's go ahead and write that down or think of another question you have. So I wonder if she is going to pass her test. Now, based on our observation that driving takes a lot of practice, and we know that Hannah works really hard for her test, our question is, I wonder if she's going to pass her test. What can our inference be? Anna Marie?
I can infer that she's taking her driver's test to get her license.
Wonderful. So I can infer that Hannah is taking a driver's test to get her license. Awesome. Go ahead and write that down or write another inference that you may have had. Give me a thumbs up. Great job. We're going to do one more together. So go ahead and look at story card number 3. Would anybody like to read this one? Tyler?
Grace snapped her helmet into place. She was going to give up. Although she had some scrapes and bruises, she was determined to land this trick. She grabbed her board and took a deep breath. You can do this, she thought.
Nice job. So looking at the story card, what is an observation that we can make based on the text? So remember, we can say things like the story states, or I can see that, or I know that. Does anybody have an observation? Anna Marie?
So Tyler read that she's wearing a helmet or putting on a helmet, and she wants to do some tricks on her board.
Nice job. So you can say, I read that she is wearing a helmet and wants to do tricks on her board. Nice. Go ahead and write this observation down, or think of your own observation that you could write down. And give me a thumbs up when you're finished. Wonderful. Now let's read this again. And as I'm reading it, think of a question that you might have. So really listen. Grace snapped her helmet into place. She was not going to give up. Although she had some scrapes and bruises, she was determined to land this trick. She grabbed her board and took a deep breath. You can do this, she thought. What's a question that you might have? Tyler?
I wonder if she's going to land the trick and do what she's trying to do.
Great question. I wonder if she is going to land the trick. Now, based on our observation and our question, what can you infer about Grace from this text? Anna Marie?
Well, it says she doesn't want to. The word shows that she's determined. So I'm thinking of the word perseverance. That I'm inferring that she is going to persevere on what she wants to accomplish.
Good. So you can say something like, I can infer Grace will persevere, right? You write that down. I was also thinking I can infer that Grace is brave, because doing a trick like this might be really scary, right? So she might be brave. All right, go ahead and write that down, or write of an inference that you think of, and give me a thumbs up. Nice job. All right, so for the cards number 5 through 6, you are going to work with your elbow partner to complete 5 through 6. So you guys can work together and make some observations, questions, and inferences. Then on your own, I would like you to complete cards 7 and 8. Then when you are finished, your work goes in the green tray. Where does your work go when it's finished?
The green tray.
Wonderful. And if you are finished and other students are still working, you can read or practice your spelling words on Spelling City. And raise your hand if you have any questions, and I'll let you know when it's time to move on. Go ahead and start working. Good. I love how you guys are working with your partner and talking about the different inferences. Keep up the great work. Go ahead and give me a thumbs up if you are finished with the inferencing worksheet and you put your work in the green tray. Nice job. So it looks like everybody is finished. So we are going to do a quick review. Who can tell me what is an inference? So we can kind of go back to our paper. See who remembers what's an inference. Tyler?
An educated guess.
Wonderful. So remember, an inference is an educated guess, and you read facts and evidence to reach a logical conclusion or opinion, and you're using the text to read between the lines, right? How do you find an inference within the text? Anna Marie?
It's like an addition problem. First, you have to observe and then ask questions. And once you observe and ask the questions, then you can have your inference.
Wonderful job. And our last question, how confident are you in finding the inference within the text? This question, I want you to write in your language arts notebook the answer to this question. So go ahead and give me just a sentence or two on if you feel very confident, somewhat confident, or not confident at all, and tell me why, and then give me a thumbs up. Nice job. So I will be taking a look at your notebooks later, and we will continue our inferencing for day 3 tomorrow.